Welcome to the Women in Business radio show with Sian Murphy, connecting women in business around the globe.
Hello and welcome into the Women in Business radio show studio. We are actually still trying to find out what FM stations we're on. You think we'd know, wouldn't you? I had it written down in the notes, and obviously those are not the notes that I've brought, but never mind, it'll all be fine, I'm sure. So who else have we got in the studio with me today? My co-host today is Katrina Festorazzi from Faster Photo, and the recently created her new business venture, Razzi, Dazzle Clean. So welcome into the studio, Katrina. I'm surprised you've got time.
I'm cleaning as
you're going. Please do submit the bill to Channel Radio.
Nice big fat invoice.
Also in the studio, we have our guest today, who is Molly Parker, who is a voice, accent and communication skills coach. Welcome into the studio, Molly.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So I'm expecting to be shown up. This could all be a bit revealing. Because I think I'm brilliant.
Just going to point out all your flaws.
And I know you do as well, Katrina.
I think I'm amazing. Yeah.
So this may not be a good show for us. We haven't even managed to sort out what station we're on as well, either, have we? No, so let me tell you how else you can listen to the show if you are not listening live, or if you want to listen again. We are on Audible. We are on Spotify. We are, I don't know, we're on Alexa. We're on Apple iTunes. We're on Google Podcasts, and we are also on Spreaker. And we are on Substack. So we also put this podcast up onto our Substack, which is the Women in Business Radio Show.substack.com.
No excuse.
No excuse. Yeah. It's we are what's the word? We are omnipresent, aren't we? We're every
I love that.
That's a good word, isn't it? Do you like that word?
Yeah,
I tell you what, that's too much of a word for me on a Thursday morning. I'm going to have to go and lie down now. I can't. No,
she's done.
No, yeah, I am. That's me. It ended. Have you found out what?
No,
look, I'm trying
to navigate
this is just
the website,
useless, isn't
and
it?
it's just, yeah, sorry, I can't find it.
It's something. It's down in Kent somewhere. It's 102.1 FM, I think.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description.
Yeah, yes, we will. We'll put it. We'll put it in the description. Yeah. There we go. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, not really sure, to be honest, because obviously we don't tell our guests anything, which all adds to the excitement. But as a voice, accent, and communication skills coach, that's sort of what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to start off talking about sort of Molly's story, because that's really what we're all about here, both for the Women in Business radio show and the Women in Business Big Show, which is on August the 10th at Longfield Academy, which is near Bluewater in Kent.
So excited.
Near Ebbsfleet. And Katrina is one of our experts, is part of our expert media team, and is going to be doing reels.
Doing lots of visuals and stuff.
Yes.
Fun stuff.
The fun stuff.
Bits, yeah.
So she's not going to be coming anywhere near me, because I'm not fun. I'm not fun. I'll also be wafting. That is my job. Yes. Somebody has to waft.
Well, she does. She's like stressing all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody has to do that. Somebody has to do the wafting. That's me. I don't even speak at my own event.
You don't? No. Too busy just dealing.
Well, I'm not really a speaker either, am I?
I think you do enough of it on here.
This isn't speaking, this is interviewing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
In fact, I really do like to distinguish between those three key skills. And when I realised what I am and what I'm not, it was actually a bit of a revelation. So I am not a speaker. You will very rarely see me stand up and speak where there's sort of perhaps not a lot of interaction with the audience until maybe the end when they start asking questions. If you have ever been in a training class or a workshop with me, you will know why I'm not a trainer either. I get quite cross quite quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I do run them every now and then. I do run them every now and then if I have to.
Okay.
Sometimes I fill in for some other people. So I do. So I may be running a training course and somebody's doing it, but they can't do it, so I will fill in.
Right.
And it's okay as a one-off. But I'm not a speaker or a trainer. I'm an interviewer.
Yeah.
And I'm a facilitation speaker.
Yeah, okay.
So I interview people and I can facilitate a room of people and generate a discussion and get that going and organise it, but I'm not a speaker.
See, I think it's nice that you found that, because a lot of people try and do all of them.
I have a little training course around that, actually, which is about something I started doing in lockdown when everybody sort of wanted to have a podcast, or everybody wanted to be on Zoom. And I understand there wasn't a choice, was there?
No,
for a lot of people, they had to start doing this. But it was quite difficult because I don't know about you're probably fine with this, but the thought of holding up my phone and sort of talking into it on my own and being, I don't know, informative, fun, interesting, inspiring, totally on my own. I think I can't. This just isn't me. And that's when I started thinking about the different people. So I had people coming to me and say, I know I should be starting a podcast, or I know I should be going live on Facebook, but I really don't want to, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to do it. And I started thinking about it. So actually, you can do it when you work out what sort of voice it is that you have.
Yeah.
Are you a speaker where you are going to go live on your Todd and just spout forth? Are you a trainer? Are you going to run a workshop online? Or are you an interviewer? Well, if you're an interviewer, just don't go live on your Todd and spout forth and, points of wisdom or whatever. Get somebody else on. Interview them.
Yeah, make it more interesting.
Yes, and do it that way, because I think they're three very, 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 very distinct skills.
Yes, agreed.
So that's my take on it. And that's also why I don't speak at my own event. Because I'm not a speaker. I wouldn't have anybody back at the event.
I don't know. You do give some words of wisdom. You do.
Yeah, but it tends to be when I'm having conversations with people, or I'm having conversations with an audience, rather more than actually standing up. I don't do all of that organised thing, like where you have to stick to a routine, you have to stick to some points and a title, PowerPoints, that sort of thing. So yeah, and also about speaking in other people's rooms. You have to make a decision. Are you going to talk in other people's rooms? Because they want, very often they want a title. They want you have to stick to a particular time. You have to stick to a particular topic. Quite rightly, that's what I expect when people are speaking at my events.
Yeah,
I don't get them into. We have a title, and I don't. They start talking about something else totally different. People are not going to be happy, and I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So I just don't speak for other people. It's best. We end up with far less moaning.
You create the opportunity.
No disappointment.
Yes, I like that.
Anyway, so how did we start talking about that? We were talking about the Women in Business Big Show, weren't we, and speaking. So, no, Katrina is doing the fun stuff.
Yeah, love it.
Because
we had a bit of an experiment last year.
We did,
which
but
went
it
down really well.
It really worked. It really worked. Helped get sort of people, I'm not saying necessarily people out of their shell, but it was, because I don't like that sort of thing. I think if you're in your shell, you should be just left in it. When I'm in my shell, I do not want people coming along going, come along, lovely, get up, go and enjoy yourself.
I'm a Cancer, so I go into my shell sometimes, I'm retreating.
I just want to be left as I am, thank you very much. But for those that really sort of wanted to join in, it was a really fun thing that you did with the reels, and also it was a way of tying it all together, wasn't it? Because you actually took lots of them.
I did,
and then they all,
and then it ended up being 4 different videos because I had to anticipate how many people would actually want to join in. So it's quite funny. I actually caused a bit of a dispute, a domestic, between a couple that were business owners about doing the reel, because the hubby was just not in tune. He just didn't get the beat. So it's quite funny. Quite a few beats. The outtakes were hilarious. I sent them the outtakes, and it's the funniest thing ever.
But I tell you what, it was. I had never thought of doing what you did.
Yeah.
Because that's not what I do. I just put lots of people together in a room. But you do something different, which is why we have to involve people who do stuff differently to us, as annoying as they may be. But what you did by getting it, basically you got everybody to clap. So individual people would be clapping and then sort of moving, sweeping it,
and the camera move to the next stall.
But by getting everybody to do that as individuals and then editing it so that it was all together and then adding the music onto it, effectively what it did was bring everybody that was involved in the event together in the reels.
Yeah.
Which was really, really clever, I thought.
And it's going to be even better this year.
And I would never, ever have thought of doing that.
Thank you. No.
And I think it's, especially when you have lots of exhibitors and speakers, and very often people that they sort of stay in their own spot, don't they? Because they're busy with their own, they're busy with their own stand, or they're busy speaking, or they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. So finding a way of actually bringing them all together, even though it may well be after the event.
Yeah.
Not before the event, not during the event.
But it's a good icebreaker as well.
It is. Bringing them together after the event, I think it was was inspired, actually.
Yeah. And also, a lot of people tagged themselves in it, and then we shared it, and then it brought attention to the event as well.
Yeah.
So from a marketing point of view, it's a really good thing to do. So I think, your phones, although obviously I'm doing myself out of a job here, your phone is a very easy tool to capture the moment, and use obviously the free editing. Can I tell you? She always does this.
Hang on a minute.
Right,
I don't think you're doing yourself out of a job at all, because I've got the business of a phone there, haven't I? I've got a brand new iPhone. It was a long time coming. I've been keeping the other one just as long as I could, so that I didn't have to
notice it's a new one.
So that I didn't have to deal with anything new. So I'm not being extravagant here. The other one literally sort of just went, I can't do this anymore, and it was so old I couldn't connect it to anything either. I have to say though, even if you said to me, okay, you've got everything there, you've got your phone, you've got everything you need, could you just go and do that, please? I couldn't.
Fair enough.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
It would take me about 3 weeks to actually understand what it was you're actually talking about, let alone do it. So, you're not doing yourself out of a job at all. I think there are some people that can pick that up and can do it well. I think there are some people like yourselves that can pick that up and do it expertly. And sometimes an expert sort of okay, but there are times when you need that expert. And then there are people like me who, even if we had written instructions, and if I had a little man behind me pressing the buttons, I'm not sure it would still work. But anyway, Katrina is going to be there. She's going to have her faster photo hat on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
And she is going to have a stand where I dare say she'll be talking. She'll have some information about Razzle Dazzle Clean as well. If she doesn't, she'll have to answer to me, because that would just be stupid, wouldn't it?
I think it's a nice props.
Right. Shall I stop talking now?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Molly.
Hello.
Welcome into the studio. I'm just keeping talking, because you are actually the voice, accent and communication skills coach, and I'm scared. I'm worried.
I get that all the time.
I'm worried.
Someone says, I'm a psychologist. You go, oh no, but then they're going to analyse me.
I promise that's not how it works.
No, I know. They analyse me. There's not a lot of depth. I have to. This is it, really. Molly, tell us a little bit about which way shall we do this first? Let's just talk about what you do. So I'm going to ask you some questions, because I want to very quickly get out of you what it is that you do and who you do it with. So do you work with individuals or teams of people?
Both, mostly individuals.
Let's go with individuals, because I think it's mostly individuals that we've got listening. So what sort of problem might I have or recognise in myself that I would come to you for?
So it can be split into different categories, I suppose. So one could be the sort of anatomical side of things. That's the more technique stuff. So someone literally might be losing their voice, or someone may have been told, I can't hear you, or someone may be told you have a quality about your voice that means that there's lots of fry. So if I was to speak to you like this, someone might have this in terms of their voice. So that's the sort of
what did you call that? Lots of
vocal fry, it's called.
Vocal fry.
And I have that in my voice as well. I think it's a very British accent thing as well, but it's literally just the vocal folds coming together in a certain way. It's super common, but some people just have it to an extreme extent. Maybe if they have acid reflux, maybe if they have anything else going on.
So would it be you might sound like a really heavy smoker?
Yeah, you can be really raspy,
right? Okay,
which could be really straining your voice,
and also not pleasant to listen to, because it might sound like you've got really bad breathing, or that you're gasping, or
we tend to pick up on, I suppose, how comfortable someone sounds and feels when you're listening to them. And so I don't know if it's always too much about it's a nice sound or not. It's also, how does it make the audience feel listening to that person. If that person is straining talking, then the audience might feel that almost strain as well. So that's the anatomical side of things.
And that's a vocal fry, F-R-Y?
Yeah, vocal fry. Okay. Yeah, but...
learned something already.
There we go. But most people, to be honest, come more so because they don't feel quite what they might call connected to their voice, or they don't feel very grounded. And there's lots of buzzwords that you'll hear like this: grounded, connected, centered. And what people tend to mean by that is they might feel quite nervous speaking. They might not feel in control of their voice. They might have had some sort of experience that has really knocked their confidence when they're speaking. And so a big part of why they feel like they need a coach or a teacher or a facilitator is very simply to help them feel more in tune with their body, more in tune with their voice, so that they can manipulate it if they want to help them feel more confident. So it's kind of that mental side of things, really, as well as that. It's about being present, the anatomy of the voice, as well as that mindset.
So we've got one bit that's physical, which can affect how your voice sounds or how you're speaking. We've got another bit that is linked to your head, your brain, if you like, your thoughts, and how you're feeling, and that being translated into your voice and your speaking, and how you're feeling whilst you're speaking.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's great. And I would say there's probably a third one there in connecting to your nervous system, which is literally your body's mind, if you like, which is that fight-flight response that we feel. And how to help that, because a lot of part of voice coaching is also breath work. So it's a lot about calming that nervous system through things like mindfulness and lots of breath facilitation like that. So I'd say that's the third pillar, if you like.
So when we're in fight or flight, we're not really thinking about, we're not thinking calmly and sensibly. So that it would perhaps people recognise that in a speaker when they're gabbling, they're not pausing, they're not letting people ask questions or deal with the questions that, saying, can we do it later? Or they're just on their way and they're not stopping regardless of what happens. And I suppose if you there's flight or freeze, I suppose the ultimate is freeze is you're stood there or you're either in the wings and you're not even coming out, or you're stood there and nothing's coming out.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the first exercises I do with most people is we'll walk around the room and I'll say, okay, I want you to imagine you're person A. Person A is really confident, like really bold, really happy to be here. However, they're really bad at observation. Okay, they don't know what colour the walls are. They don't know how they got there. They can't remember anyone's names. That's exhibit A. Then person B is someone who's a little bit more self-conscious, but really observant, like really, really hyper-aware of everyone around them. And we then talk about how did person A feel, how did person B feel. And usually people are like, oh, person A is that confident person, right? They're the class clown. They're the people that everyone recognizes as confident. But then I ask them, but how did your body feel when you were walking around? What did it feel like to stand like that? And they were like, well, it's actually a lot of effort. Like, I feel like I'm having to hold myself up in this way, or I feel like I'm having to put on this persona. And so that's what I'd call that fight response. That's I'm in a situation I don't feel comfortable, but I'm going to match up to this energy. And so they harness that fight. Person B could then be seen as that flight of someone who maybe goes more inward. And you can literally see people's bodies going from this outward energy to this inward energy. And then, of course, as you said, freeze is that literally freezing of the muscles. When our muscles freeze, the voice nothing's happening. So that's kind of one of the first exercises we do, because people will all recognize ourselves. We can fight in some situations, we'll fly in others, but recognizing what you might do in public speaking or just when you're interviewing or whatever you use your voice most for is really powerful. Just identifying what your fight, flight, freeze response is, and then learning techniques on how to help that.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
I've got a question. So you mentioned situations, things might knock people's confidence. So do you find you've got a particular age group of people that come to you, or sex that come to you?
Yeah,
go on.
Absolutely. I would say I've been coaching for maybe 6 years, and I'd say probably 85% of people are non-white women, or people who are not male in some way. Yeah. So global majority, people who, I very rarely work with white cisgendered men, I would say.
Do you think, and I'm not sure whether you know the answer to this, I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to this, but do you think it's because they are dealing with speaking or communication and using their voice in a better way? Or do you think it's that they are not seeking help and so they just don't do that?
I think it's probably both, Yeah, I think it's definitely both. I think there is more... The clients I work with, it's not so much that sometimes they're not even aware that they need the help, if that makes sense. Something I'm really passionate about is making sure that I'm working with people where they are seeking the help. Because quite often they'll come because, so-and-so has told me I should come and see someone. Yeah, or even like my boss has told me that I should come and see someone. And actually, most of the men I have a consultation with, that's their in. They've said, I want to up-level my skill set because so-and-so has said this, or I've heard this from this person. And then we'll start working together and they'll realise, I'm becoming more aware of my habits. So I do think there is a space for women to probably have that space and that time to be able to give themselves that observation that maybe men don't have. But also, I will say that, and I will say this as a white, Southern English, cisgendered person, there's never really a room I walk into where I don't feel like people don't want to hear what I have to say. Most of the people who come to me don't have the belief that people want to hear them, whether that's because of their accent, whether that's because of whatever other reason. Yeah. And so it's a complicated one.
So their belief around, so it's not about ability at all. It's about their belief, a limiting belief that nobody wants to hear them. Well, it's very difficult to speak if you think that nobody wants to hear what you've got to say, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And it's hardly about, we can help with ability some ways, but, I think people either think they've got it or they don't. People are either charismatic or they're not. And actually, I don't think that's completely the case. I believe that charisma can be trained. I used to be so shy, oh my God. But you sort of work your way into learning techniques, and whether that's mental, physical, whatever it is, I think you can learn how to be more charismatic and how to speak more confidently.
Let's talk a little bit about charisma. I wasn't really expecting that to come up, but now that it has come up, it's sort of obvious, so thank you. I think you're right that people think it is... You either have charisma or you don't have charisma. But is it really about being shy or not? Do you think that you can be quite shy, but you can have that, or you can be quite shy, or you don't reveal absolutely everything about yourself, that you have a degree of introversion, that you keep that you keep a lot of your life to yourself, but that you can still have that charisma? That you can be shy and charismatic.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. I think it's your definition of shy, isn't it?
Right,
when I think of 13, 14-year-old myself, 16-year-old myself even, when I'm thinking of shy, I'm thinking of, oh God, I don't want to speak. Like, no one wants to hear what I have to say. Whereas there's also that shyness that some people could perceive someone as shy, but actually they're just choosing.
This is me. And I think some people label themselves as shy without actually sort of thinking really about what that word and what that feeling or what it is like to be shy. So somebody may be saying, actually, I'm quite a shy person, when really what they mean is I'm quite private.
Yeah.
That I keep my private life to myself, but that doesn't mean that I can't and won't stand up and hold a conversation or say what it is I want. I just don't reveal all of my innermost thoughts. So I think it's really important, actually, that we think about that, because we could have people out there who believe they're shy and because of that believe that they're not charismatic And because of all of those sort of things together, that for some reason they're unable to communicate, that they're unable to stand up and speak or run a podcast or do anything or run a business or teach or train or do anything like that because they're shy and don't have that charisma. I think thinking that somebody doesn't want to hear what you're going to say, what you have to say, is a deal breaker, isn't it?
And usually it's a limiting belief. Like most limiting beliefs, you don't even realise you're holding.
Yeah.
You know, that most people don't even realise that they have that belief in them.
And you're right. You mentioned, you gave an example of being younger, and now obviously that's changed. So obviously with age and life and experiences, you can develop those skills and get more confidence and charisma, and you learn as you speak to people. But what you do, you kind of give a fast track to that, I guess.
Yeah, or I suppose...
Or the skill sets to be able to to do it faster.
Yeah, I suppose so, because it's a funny thing with, you know, I work with so many people from so many different ages, because I work with actors as well. So some actors that I represent are child actors, and they're like 10 years old, and the confidence on them is amazing.
That's my daughter. My daughter is a nightmare.
Amazing. The confidence is fantastic, honestly, because they will also watch each other and be very honest about each other's performance, which you just don't have. We're like my adults group.
Yeah. But also it can be quite tough. That, I mean, if you take it out of the studio and put it into the playground,
she's completely different.
But I'm thinking not so much that, but with that I'm being really honest about somebody else's performance. If you took that out of the studio and put it into the playground, where somebody turned around and said, that dress looks horrible on you,
yeah,
that's a critique of your performance in a way, isn't it? So that could be quite quite tough to have somebody your own age saying to you, well, that stunk. That was crap.
Yeah.
That could be really difficult, couldn't it?
I think you're right. I mean, my daughter, you mentioned about the 10-year-old. So my daughter's 10 and she's a child actor, and she has confidence, and when she's filming and when everything's in the studio and she's doing one thing, but it's away from that environment that she worries about the critique of people at school.
Yeah.
And I try and keep off social media as much as I can, because obviously we know that can be quite difficult to navigate. But it's those critique and comments from that about her performance that she worries about the most.
And that is what's so funny about the acting world in general. I think there is this, I'm not myself, I'm someone else. So I don't mind having that critique with what I found personally with my students. And obviously there's a way that we kind of open a space of kindness, of curiosity, of compassion. But it is amazing, for example, if I'm teaching them the same accent that I might be teaching a later adult class, the confidence levels are just so much higher with the children's group.
Just explaining, because I've actually seen what Molly does, but Molly also teaches actors and actresses or are they all just actors now? People who act. Different accents, like Canadian accents, American accents, all of that sort of thing. So that just sort of put that into context there. I've forgotten what my next question was now. It's just so annoying, isn't it? And now I've dropped my pen on the floor. Hang on a moment, folks.
I'll just jump in, because I'm really bad at accents.
Okay.
So my daughter can reel off accents, hilarious ones. So if I was to come to, what would be an easy accent to start with to learn?
Oh God, an easy one. I think it's have a think about what you're used to listening to. So I wouldn't say I've ever naturally been brilliant at accents until I learned how to be an accent coach, because then they kind of teach you actually what makes up an accent. But my mother's Irish.
Okay.
So because I've been around that voice, you tend to pick it up a little bit easier. So I would just have a think about, I don't know, where have you lived in the world? What accent?
So would you start with a particular word and get them to repeat it, and then
I would start with
a sentence?
So you'd start with you might do. So you could learn via like listening and repeating, but what I tend to tell people is you're then picking up on someone's voice as well as their accent. So when you learn by listening and then repeat, you're also imitating a voice, not just the way they're shaping the sound.
Right.
So what we tend to do is work off of what's the tone you can hear. So is it a slightly more nasal tone than what you might have? Does it feel a little bit deeper? And always listen to like 3 examples, find that sort of tone, and then go from there and enjoy.
So to take this away from the child studio and put it into the business context, potentially you may need to learn an accent for business. It may be that you're moving to a different space. It may be that you're offering a business in a different country where there's a different language being spoken predominantly. So that's the sort of approach that you would need to take if you need to do that.
Yes, I think, so I have had people before, I suppose, coming saying, I want to, what they'd call soften their accent for a certain way. Is that what you mean?
No, it wasn't actually. It was about learning. It was about learning a language to do business in a different language.
Oh, so I am awful at languages. I couldn't tell you a thing about languages, but accents.
It's the accent around the language.
But what about words? Okay, so I'll give you an example as briefly as I can. So there's a I won't say her name, but a very well famous photographer, and she tours around the world and she does training and she does interviews and blah blah blah, and we can swear a little bit on this. It's not a swear. It's a word that's not okay. I won't use the word. I'll try and explain it as quickly as best I can. And she did a presentation and asked for somebody in the audience to help her with something. She was doing a live demo of a shoot. And there's a particular style that she has where the word I'm not going to use, but there's a dress and they have someone behind them and I'm going to use the word flick the dress, but that's not the word that's used, and anybody that's in the photography world will know what I mean. And the word is a word that is a sexual act that we term here in the UK. Yeah. Okay. So she was saying, can I have and didn't finish it. Well, she finished it, I didn't. And everyone just cried with laughter. And she said, what's so funny? And there was not millions, there was thousands of people in the audience, and they were like, do you know that is and she was just mortified staying on stage. So have you ever had to kind of teach people that kind of thing about particular words? Not really,
no, not with particular words.
That sort of culture, that
would be a thing to think about if you were going to be presenting, if you were going to be teaching or speaking at a big event in another country. You might want to do a bit of research.
I have had people come to me saying, I want just what they'd say, correct me. And in my opinion, I don't really think there's a correct way of speaking the English language. I think everyone's doing it brilliantly. And half the time, everyone can speak English a lot better than I can anyway. But usually people do come to me worrying about their accent, worrying that they won't be understood. And really, it's never about changing anything with the accent, in my approach anyway. It's always about releasing the voice. So quite often, because of the anxiety of, people won't understand me, there's a lot of jaw tension, they might have a lot of tongue tension, and that tends to stifle the voice. So rather than thinking about changing the accent, it's about kind of releasing that.
That may actually be the answer to the next question I've got. So let's say somebody's listening in now, and they either can't get to you or somebody like you, or like it's looming, it's tomorrow, where they need to speak. They need to speak to, it could be a team that they're working with. It could be a client, and, they may not have done that before. It could be that they're actually speaking, actually getting up onto a stage to do a presentation. And let's just say they're not exactly looking forward to it. They're not feeling good about this. Is there anything that you can suggest to them that might help them deal with this as a short-term pick-me-up solution?
Yes, I suppose it does come down to release and what I'd call low breath. So you might notice that when you feel anxious, you might feel a tightness in your chest, and that's because our breath tends to go very shallow. When we're speaking, we want our breath to drop all the way down into the diaphragm, which is this big muscle right below our rib cage. And so when we allow breath in, you need to imagine you've got this balloon in your belly, and you allow the belly to expand as you breathe in.
We're all doing it right now. Which, of course, this is radio, isn't it?
Concentration on my face.
Nobody can see this. Okay.
So allowing those nice, big, deep breaths. And it's also going to calm you down as well. And then when you feel comfortable with that, when you feel like, okay, my breath feels a little bit more low, then I think about energy to the very end of the line, which is probably something that I imagine both of you have maybe heard of before, which is a case that we have a habit of starting the line like this and then we kind of trail off like that. And it gets very hard.
Actually, no, I haven't.
No.
You won't be surprised to know I have absolutely no speaking, broadcasting or communication training at all.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
None. So no, I haven't.
Good. Well, it's something that effectively when you are feeling a little bit tighter or you're feeling a little bit more nervous, or really we do it in again, kind of like the vocal fry, we tend to start our point nice and strong and then we kind of trail off. Sort of
Do you know,
like
that seems so obvious.
Yeah.
See, I get people on here that I think are going to be really useful for me.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? To get the
that now that you've said that is so obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know if I do it, but I imagine I do.
Yeah, you're looking at me as if I should say.
No, you're going to say something. No. I was actually thinking about other situations where I may be doing something where I'm not quite so in my own comfort zone.
Yeah, I still do it.
And so, especially if I am speaking, if you like, to an audience, which is, I've said I very rarely do, but there are times that I do, and I bet I do that.
So what would be your tip to kind of keep that going?
So again, it really depends. Sometimes I'll literally get someone, if it's on a Zoom call, to under the desk, try to imagine they're pushing an object away to the very end until they finish their last word.
Okay,
And
so
then
make
they
it so
start
you make
again.
it sort of you create a physical connection between the brain, the mouth, and the hand.
Exactly.
Oh, that is so clever.
Hopefully. And then if for whatever reason they can't use their hands or action, then also just thinking about the intention.
Just
As in,
visualizing getting to the end of that sentence.
Yes.
With the same. I'm doing it now. With the same.
Just pushing away.
I'm doing it. You see, but once again, of course, it's radio, so nobody can see this. It's genius. Real shame. You've missed out, guys. But no, I can see how that would work.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the deep breath. Did you call it deep breath or something?
Yeah, or low breath.
Low. No, I think low breaths are better. Low, because deep breathing's a bit.
It's like long.
Yeah, that's probably a bit. That's a bit like down the phone, isn't it? We've got a heavy breather.
Off-air conversation we had.
So low breath. Making sure that your sentence, you end your sentence with the same vigour that you started. Is there anything else?
I suppose one thing also that I'd call a sneaky yawn. So yawning.
God, that's so weird. So weird. I have a range of cards, and one of them is a yawning cat, which is about yawning before you go into a meeting.
How funny!
To reduce stress and actually make us, improve sort of what's going on.
Brilliant.
Oh, look. Now we're all doing it.
Yawning is one of the best things you can do for the voice. It's just going to completely open up.
How many people are listening and yawning right now? Just yawns.
I'm gonna
contagious.
But I didn't realise. I didn't know about it in that context.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, if you imagine the way the voice works in the body, we're like a saxophone or a woodwind instrument.
So it's a physical effect of the yawning on the muscles and the vocal cords.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I think both, but for the voice, it's just fantastic. It's like a nice stretch.
Just write that down, and I'll just include that in my thing, and act like I knew it all along.
But no, doing that it's really good for you. Yeah. So if those three things, you'd be set up for success for sure.
That's thank you so much for sharing that. That's so useful. What we're now going to do is we're going to pick your brains on other stuff, just stuff around business and operating and all of that sort of thing. So, what shall we start on? You can join in with this, Katrina, as well, if you like. What have you learnt this week?
What have I learnt this week? What week are we in? That's the question. What day is it?
Just come up. Nobody will know. Just say. I won't know when you're
day.
Yeah. As long as it wasn't something like how to change your own nappy, which is, when you were 3.
Oh, something that's completely unrelated to voice and anything like that.
No, it doesn't matter.
I learned how to look after a money plant properly. I have a money plant and haven't been looking after it very much well at all. Did a proper Google, went to someone to say, hey, the leaves are growing downwards. I don't think they're meant to be growing downwards. And they taught me how to look after it. Turns out I need some iron. So that's something I've done this week.
Mine's almost on its last knockings totally. There we go. Yeah. What have you learnt this week?
Oh gosh, too many things. I had a bit of a business. I do lots of reading, and I had this thing where I learnt about investment funds.
Okay, well, actually, now what I can do is I can combine that question with the next question, which is, what are you reading or listening to this week?
Oh, yeah, well, I've got a different one. So I'm actually reading, because, sometimes we have a bit of a bad day. Yeah. There's a book called You're Probably Having a Bad Day. And it's got kind of jokes and stories and things in there to lift you out of that funk. And it's less than £8 on Amazon, and it's by somebody called That Ginger Fella. He's got quite a big social media presence, and some of the stuff in there is absolutely hilarious. And we all have a bad day, and we need picking up. And it encourages people to read, because I don't think people read enough.
No, you're right, they don't.
So I think get a book, any type of book, and also you need to learn how to read again. So reading and having focus is something that I'm really trying to focus on more recently, and trying to get through as many books as I can.
And read a storybook. For God's sake, read a storybook.
Take yourself out of the mundane.
But also reading business books as business women. If we're not careful, all we read is business books and nothing else. Yeah. But getting and I went down our little library. We have a library in Who. And I walked down there and got proper books.
Oh, I love it.
Proper books to read. And it was wonderful. So I wasn't staring at a screen. I had a proper book.
See, I'm a podcaster. I love podcasting. I love listening to podcasts.
Yeah, I listened to all of that.
I'm trying to train, but apparently you have to read. So it's really difficult from an attention span to retrain yourself to read again. Yeah.
I didn't have too much trouble, but I know where you're coming from, and I think it's a really good discipline.
I was told was when you're reading, you feel like you want to look at something in the far, is to get your finger and put your finger on the page and read
poke it in your eye.
Well, that too. You will focus. No, because apparently we used to be hunter gatherers, so we're always looking for distraction. We're always looking for that thing to eat or save our lives. Yeah. So by refocusing on your finger, it gets your focus back on the page.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my tip.
So go down the library, get a storybook.
Yeah.
What are you reading or listening to at the moment?
Well,
Molly?
I'm listening to a podcast, but I have just pre-ordered a real book that is going to be out. That's on, again, it's almost a business book, so I feel like I'm falling into that trap. But the book I've pre-ordered is called The Joy of Productivity. It's about finding joy, and it's by Ali Abdaal. And the reason I pre-ordered it
I love him.
because I'm listening to his podcast at the moment, Deep Dive.
Yeah.
I don't know this person right. I'm writing that down.
Ali Abdaal, he used to be a doctor. And he sort of, I suppose you could say he's taken a sabbatical. But he's a productivity expert, and he's got millions of followers, and he's got a podcast, and he puts that on YouTube as well, so he's clearly a lot more organised than I am, which explains a lot.
That's why he's making millions.
But also I mean, that's what he does, but it's about productivity, and it's about different tools. It's everything, isn't it, really?
I think he's a really good example of someone who is able to just soak up everything they come into existence of, right? And really nicely sort of put it together. That's something I aspire to be as a coach, someone who can really take a learning from everything and bring it into...
Sponge.
Yeah. That's a dream.
So, what's your top tool, technique or productivity tip for this week? Who are we going to start with? Katrina's looking a bit peculiar. You all right, dear? You okay?
Productivity, I don't know what that is this week.
Yes, you do.
It's holidays. It's the summer holidays.
It's the summer holidays for you. The rest of us have to get on.
I just don't know whether I'm
Molly, what's your... Just ignore her. Blot her out. Pretend like there's a wall between the two of you. What's your top tool? So it doesn't really matter. It can be something that you use. It can be a tip. It can be... It doesn't matter. Anything that you use to keep yourself, or you think keeps yourself productive.
I try to get natural light in the morning, very close to waking up. Especially because I live in quite a central area of London, and I need to just feel sun, even though there's not much sun right now, but just waking up to like a natural daylight is the best way for me and my body to start my day, for sure. It helps me then focus for the rest of the day, especially if I like go on a walk, have a coffee while I do it. That would be my tip.
Have you got one, or should we just move on?
Move on.
Move on.
Productivity is not my friend this week.
I've actually got one, which I did this morning, as it happens. It's to think about where you have everything that you need to change and try and keep it in one space. So I run different courses on development. So I run intuitive development circles and this sort of thing. And each month we have a different topic. It's just that sometimes those topics might change because people may say, oh, I'd like to do this, that or the other. And just because... But the more spaces, the more places you have that. So you have it on your website, you have it on Facebook, you have it on LinkedIn, you have it, what the topic is, or the topics, what agenda, if you like, for each month. And you've got it on Eventbrite and here, there and everywhere. If you change something, you have to go into all of those different places. And it seems so obvious, doesn't it? You have to go into all of those different places to change everything. So this is just stupid. It was because I didn't have a plan. I hadn't thought, OK, where is this going to go? It just evolved and I just kept setting up more stuff and off I went. And it's a bit... I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it, Katrina? Right? You can't imagine me doing that. And so I'm sitting there and I've done all of this. And I nearly said a rude word. Up on Eventbrite, it's got the old one on there. And somebody's come through to me and said, oh, it's showing so-and-so and so-and-so on there. And I thought, this is stupid. I build websites. Let's put the thing in one damn place. Just keep it in one place. If you need to change something, keep it in one place. Have your terms and conditions. I have lots of websites and lots of events. Terms and conditions in one place. You send everybody to one place because then if you change your terms and conditions, you haven't got to remember them to change them on every single platform you've got. That's it.
That's a great tip.
One thing, one space for if stuff is changing regularly.
Yeah, agreed. Because it's just too much. There's so many different platforms and agreed.
Yeah, so now, although we have different websites promoting different events or talking about different events, they all go through to one page for terms and conditions.
Love that.
So it doesn't matter, whatever happens, it's there. Nobody can ever say, oh, yeah, but, I had a look on this website and it says X, Y and Z. No, it doesn't. And everything's on one page.
Simplicity is the
Keep
key.
it all together. Like that. That's my tip. What's been your top challenge this week, Molly?
My top challenge this week, I've just moved flats and I'm a control freak.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have struggled with just wanting everything to be done very, very quickly and realising that's not the case. That's not how life works. And just having,
there's stuff you can't control, isn't there?
There is. There's stuff that's out of my control and I've got to be okay with that. And more than anything, I work from home a lot. A lot of my work is online. And so having to concentrate and be present for someone else while it feels like there's still unfinished stuff around me, has probably been a bit of a challenge,
Did you learn anything from it, though?
I learned how much I need to take my own advice. I need to practice what I preach. I sometimes just need me to come out of my body and coach me for just a second and remind myself, okay, just sit with yourself, take a breath, and then fill your own glass. Then you're going to have the energy to fill someone else's. And just basically practicing the presence work, I
have a problem with being disturbed. With people talking to me whilst I'm working, whilst I'm thinking about something. And that doesn't actually get any better. So what I've learned is to make sure that I take myself out of somewhere. So I'm not in a situation where I'm actually going to be disturbed, unless a fire alarm goes off or something. But so I get that. I get how it can be mentally just I can't describe it. It's really unnerving, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm floating. I'm up in my head,
disconnected.
Yeah, and it's like I'm running around all over the place. So I like that.
Me, I learnt that actually you can't be everything to everybody this week, and I get caught up in this whole I can't let people down. I've booked something, it's in the diary, I'm reluctant to move it, This week I learned that actually your clients are probably more empathetic than you actually give them credit for, and they're probably going through the same thing as well as you. So when you have things like the holidays and you think, actually, I've bitten off a bit more than I can chew this week, I need to just pick up the phone, be honest, and say, look, I'm human, I'm a businesswoman, I'm juggling. Do you mind if we put this back? And they go, I'm so pleased you called me because I'm doing the same.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, phew. Because I hate that feeling of letting people down. So I've had a lighter week this week. Although I said earlier on, productivity is not quite with me. I'm not feeling so aggravated as I was at the thought of letting people down. So that's what I've learned.
But I think you just have to do that sometimes, don't you? Because the other thing is if you is the letting people down definition of, if is not letting somebody down actually turning up where you're supposed to be, and then running around and trying to get something done that you're actually not capable of doing. And if you've got a client that doesn't understand you're human,
then they should be your client. Yeah, exactly. But yes.
But do you feel that also that there are certain things, so if somebody said, I know that you're doing, house cleaning, that you're doing commercial cleaning and also videoing. I think if there was a client that said, the way you already knew this has to be done, there is a deadline on this.
Oh, that's
actually different, isn't it? That's absolutely a totally different kettle of fish.
Yeah. I didn't have what I would call a priority booking this week. However, in my head, it was like you were saying about listing what isn't a priority. Don't just get so aggravated that everything's a priority.
Yeah, and just being honest. It's not and generally people get it. It's not a problem, is it?
No.
Molly, before we go off air, how can people contact you? And I know that you work internationally, don't you? So, you can work online. It's not a problem. They don't have to come to a particular space.
No.
So how can people contact you if they would like to work with you?
So my email is mpvoicecoach@gmail.com. And you can also find me on Instagram on mollyp_voicecoach.
So we haven't finished yet. So what is your top tip in the business that you're in, so your area of expertise? What is your top tip for, what should we call it, voice and communication?
I would say learn how to sell yourself to yourself first, and then learn how to sell yourself to other people as well. I think a lot of people struggle to talk about themselves, introduce themselves, because they haven't done the work of believing that what they have to say is valuable, selling themselves to themselves. And I would say spend some time literally selling yourself to yourself so that you feel confident enough to sell yourself to other people first. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
And what's your top tip for being in business? And you're up next, Katrina, so you can join in with this. Okay. What's your top tip for being in business?
My top tip would probably be try to enjoy the roller coaster. Just try to enjoy it, even the moments. And I'm always by myself. I complain when it's busy. I complain when it's quiet. So just learn to enjoy those roller coasters of ups and downs, and it will make it a lot easier.
Do you know, every now and then I think, wouldn't it be wonderful to not have anything to do?
Panic.
No. Even when I have, so even if I'm taking a day off, I could fill my time 24/7, 365 days of the year. I've got so much that I have created for me to do. But actually, it wouldn't be wonderful to have nothing to do. I can think of nothing worse. And the only thing I've got to do is sit here and watch Emmerdale.
Gosh. That's painful.
I just, can you imagine? Can you actually imagine that?
No, that's not life.
So be careful what you wish for. What's your top tip for being in business?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I say this all the time, but I think research and surround yourself with really positive people, people that you can lean upon that are honest with you as well. Yeah. And don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think that's the biggest thing. Always try and think of other revenue streams. It might be just a passion project. It might be something that runs alongside your business. As I keep saying, and I've said it a number of times on this podcast and other radio show and others, COVID has taught us a lot about that.
Yeah.
And you need to think about, yes, okay, I'm firefighting now, I'm earning money to pay the bills now, but what does 5 years look like?
Yeah.
And look at how you can get lots of revenue streams and skill up, research, pick up a book, learn from people.
Yeah. Okay. New revenue streams, different revenue streams.
Absolutely.
Molly, what do you know now that you wish you'd have known when you started out?
I wish I'd known the power of multiple platforms. So when I first started out as a service coach, I went through just Instagram. I put all of my energy into Instagram, and I was like, I'm just going to make this as good as possible. Over the last few years, I thought, well, why don't I just spread this energy out a little bit more? Which I'm sure some people will have different tactics. But now I try to upload on YouTube. I try to go onto Skillshare. I try to do TikTok. And I'm not saying I'm a master at any of them in whatsoever. However, I find that everyone you got a different social platform that they prefer. And I find that more leads are coming in because I'm spread over multiple
You see, that's
platforms.
really interesting, because very often the standard advice is to pick one place and then sort of get get brilliant on that before you start using something else. And it's refreshing to hear somebody who's actually using different platforms and getting more leads coming in.
Yeah.
Did you start off, I mean, you said Instagram, so did you wait until you were, I don't know what the word is, stable, confident, established on Instagram before you started moving out onto other places? Did you do it one at a time, in like a sort of tactical, a strategic approach, or did you just go, I quite like TikTok, I'll go on there?
I was comfortable with Instagram. And then I did that honestly for years. And then one day I thought, oh, well, I'm a bit bored of it now, so let's just try something new.
Okay.
And actually, more than anything, it just establishes trust, I think. And I think that as a consumer, if I go onto someone's page and I can see they've got a lot of stuff happening, I'm like, okay, they have lots to say and they have it in different ways. And I just chose what excited me at that time. I never thought I'd start a newsletter, but actually I had things that didn't quite fit in an Instagram and didn't quite fit in a YouTube short. So I wanted to start a newsletter because of that. And I think that's very important when you're picking.
And you've set yours up on Substack?
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. It's a super platform, but I think it does have some challenges. But it's still, I think, a brilliant platform. And I think it's a bit like QR codes. You know, I think there were certain people who sort of really embraced QR codes about 7 or 8 years ago and were leaping around all over the place. Unfortunately, the rest of the public weren't with them. Yes. So like the digital marketers, right, we need to have QR codes. These are actually fantastic. And everybody else just didn't want to know. Now, people are using them.
Yeah.
And I see people using them who I would never imagined would be using QR codes. And it's become standard. So yeah, I like that you're sort of getting out there and doing different things. Was I going to ask you something?
Well, I was going to answer that question as well.
Come on then.
So quickly, mine was more of a phrase. Mine was, I wish I'd learnt this then, 10 years ago or whatever. We all have the same 24 hours. And it's how you utilise those 24 hours. So going back to your productivity question earlier, is the key. So no more excuses. Oh, I haven't got time for that. Well, we've all got the same 24 hours. So how are you going to chunk up those 24 hours and make these things happen that you want to happen? So maybe it's that you don't want it to happen and you're just using time as an excuse.
Yes, that you're using procrastination. But I'm actually going to challenge that, and I can.
Always challenge me.
I know. And you see, we're running over. It's not everybody does have the same 24 hours. I don't have children. Well, I do have children. Sorry, kids.
They're older. But that's what I'm saying. So your 24 hours changes depending on what you've got.
I don't have young children at home. So I have a different 24 hours because I potentially have, not only do I not have to look after children, but I don't have to listen to them either.
Yeah, lovely.
So even when you're working, you can be listening to them. But I think we all have, that said, I can't really work more than 7 hours a day before my brain goes, where's your wine and pork pies? It's time to... And even if I resist, my brain's still going, no, love, you've had it. It's not... We're done.
You're clocking off.
Yeah, we are finished. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I think for me, if I'd have had that said to me, I think I might have made some very different decisions in life. Yeah.
Right, I think, because I'm waffling off into show 2 now, I think we need to round it up. So, firstly, thank you so much, Katrina Festorazzi, for being my co-host, as one of our regular co-hosts in the studio from Faster Photo and Razzi, Dazzle, Clean. And seeing as you've had such a busy week and you've had to deprioritise people, I'm just so honoured that I'm here.
You were my only priority this week.
I'm so honoured that you're still here. So I hope it's been good fun and relaxing.
Always.
And also thank you so much, Molly Parker, voice, accent and communication skills coach. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
I've really learned a lot. I can't think of anything else that I need to suck out of your brain right now.
Fabulous. Thank you for having me.
What we didn't do, we didn't really get a chance to listen to Molly's story because we were so busy sort of bleeding her dry from every little piece of information she might have for us. So what I will do is make sure, because we do have her bio actually, so I'm going to make sure that her bio is on our Substack. So that's the Women in Business Radio Show.substack.com. It will be on there so that you can read more about Molly. And of course, you can see a picture of her as well. You can see a picture of all 3 of us having fun in the studio. Okay, so we will see you all again. I've forgotten how to finish the show now. What do I say? This was the Women in Business Radio Show. We will see you all again very soon, and thank you for listening to us. Oh, I know. In honour of the lovely Sinead O'Connor, our songs today are from Sinead. So thank you, Sinead.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business Radio Show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.